He's cooking the Ilish in a range of preparations, from a Bhapa to a Jhol to a Bhaja to preparations with poshto. So we're in the kitchen here at Esplanade and I can spot the Ilish, the Macher Rani right there. So this is a Jhol.
Yeah. This is your quintessential Bengali, most staple Ilish preparation. Minimal usage of ingredients.
Okay.
And maximum amount of flavor.
I love the crispy crackle of the skin. This is only the first of the other 3, 4, 5 dishes that will follow, but I think we've already found our spot of Shantiniketan. Hi folks, this is Kripalamana, Gourmet on the Road, and you're watching Food Lovers TV. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're staying safe and strong. So if you've been following our work over the last few weeks, both our channels, Food Lovers TV and also Kripalamana Vlogs, you would have noticed that I've been inviting friends and fellow food lovers to partake of meals with me. If you haven't caught those yet, I'm going to place links to some of them in the description below, so do take a look. Also, let me know what you think of these episodes, what you think of these vlogs. Well, I've been having a great time exploring food with some company on the table, and I hope you've been enjoying these shows too. So today I'm on my way to explore something really special. I'm on my way to Indiranagar here in Bengaluru to a Bengali restaurant called Esplanade. Now, Esplanade is owned by my friend Chef Subhankar Dhar, and I've already covered it in a detailed Gourmet on the Road episode. If you haven't caught it yet, you will find a link to that episode too in the description below. Subhankar is a person who's extremely passionate about Bengali food, and he's made it his life's work almost to showcase Bengali cuisine to those that may not be very familiar with this fascinating and delicious cuisine. So currently Esplanade has a very special festival on, and this is the HILSA festival. So if you're a Bengali, I know you're already salivating just at the mention of the word HILSA, or of course Ilish in Bengali. So Subhankar has a complete menu dedicated to the Ilish. He's cooking the Ilish in a range of preparations, from a Bhapa to a Jhol to a Bhaja to preparations with poshto and what have you. So I've requested him to put together a little tasting for me over lunch. And hopefully, if he's not too busy, he too will join me on the table. So let's go to Esplanade and savor this great Bengali delicacy, the Ilish. I'm with my friend Chef Subhankar Dhar. He's a chef who's made it his life's work to make Bengali cuisine familiar with the non-Bengalis. I used to love Bengali cuisine, but I would always find it very intimidating to go into typical Bengali restaurants. The food was great, but as a non-Bengali, as a non-Bengali, so to speak, correct. One would feel intimidated because one didn't know what to order. Most of the staff only spoke Bengali.
Correct.
And I think when Esplanade came onto the scene, how long ago?
It is 2007.
2007.
It's
that's
almost 15 years.
15 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, so when they came on the scene, they made it very comfortable. They made the approach to Bengali cuisine very easy, very accessible.
We took it up on ourselves to educate the locals.
Okay.
Because we just can't keep catering to the Bengali diaspora. If you have to be popular, you have to cater to the local people. So when we started Esplanade, if you see the demographic ratio, we started as a Bengali restaurant. Definitely the initial euphoria would be there with the Bengalis. They would come in. So the initial with 95 to 5%. Eventually that has come to a different level now. Today we cater to 65 to 35.
65%?
Of Bengalis, 35. The Bengalis are mostly frequented during the weekends. But our weekdays business are taken care of by the local people. Eventually learned about our cuisine, learned about how to eat, what to eat, how to start your course, and they know about it.
Speaking of which, you must definitely take a look at the episode that we've done on Esplanade. I think we've done a extensive tasting on some of the Bengali delicacies here.
Correct.
And you should definitely take a look at that. So of course, when it comes to Bengali cuisine, they love their, what do they call them? The Macher
The Bengali.
Bengali.
The Bengali is made out of fish and rice. Bengali a bowl of rice and a bowl of Macher Jhol. They're sorted for the day. So that's how it is. That's why you call it Macher Bengali.
Today we're going to explore a lot of fish.
Yes, we are just going to explore queen of fish, the HILSA.
The Macher Rani.
Yes. So this is a perfect season to really relish that. It's monsoon has just set in.
Okay.
We've got the best of the HILSA from Bangladesh. That's Padma. That's where he's got a lot of oil, and you're the kind of fish, the flavor that we get from there is a perfect blend of your fat and the flesh. So that's how. That's why it's like you generally don't need to put anything, any masala to make that fish tasty. So either you fry it, steam it, do it whatever you want to. You cannot go wrong unless you burn it.
Okay, so the HILSA is synonymous with monsoons.
Yes, synonymous with monsoon. That's where you get the fresh catch.
So that's when the fish swims from the sea to the river.
To the river to breed.
I've been doing some reading on the HILSA, and I'm told that the HILSA has spectacular memory. So they go back to spawn in the place they were born. So from the Bay of Bengal, they work their way up the river.
Yeah, they work their up to the sandhead. Sea meets the river.
Okay.
So or
to
maybe
the
backwards to the delta backwaters.
That's right.
They breed and they again come back.
So why is HILSA so popular with Bengalis?
To be very honest, the HILSA was made popular by the East Bengals. The migrants, the people like us, our ancestors, who migrated from Bangladesh before partition happened, or after the partition. And along with that, we carried our food legacies, the way we used to cook, our style of cooking.
It's a sense of nostalgia.
Correct.
For the East Bengalis.
Correct.
So what are we going to be tasting today?
So generally, what we start with as Bengalis, when we have a HILSA at home for family in there, so we'll get a whole HILSA, we'll cut into different pieces. We'll start with the first course would be your just Ilish Bhaja.
Ilish Bhaja.
The shallow fried HILSA in the mustard oil. That along with that mustard oil will be tempered with little bit of green chilies and Nigel essence.
That's a black cumin.
We call it kalo jire.
So I'm sure we're going to also taste plenty more of the HILSA.
Plenty more.
And we'll probably get to that on the table.
Yes,
but I think before that we should take a look at the fish.
Yes, please.
So we're in the kitchen here at Esplanade, and I can spot the Ilish.
Yes.
The Macher Rani right there. So how big is this particular fish?
1 to 1.2 kgs.
Okay.
We even get bigger, 1.3 to 1.4,
Okay.
which would be much more oily, much more fatty. But this is the kind of fish which is easy for us to make pieces and sell in portions.
Okay.
If it becomes too big, it becomes too much for a single person.
And it's also a very expensive fish.
Yeah, it's very expensive.
So how much is this fish?
This is around, we are buying at around say 1900 rupees a kg.
1900 rupees a kilo.
A kilo.
So this fish that you have right here is about 2,500 rupees.
Yes.
It's got a pink sort of an accent.
Yes, correct. Correct.
After all, it's called the Macher Rani. So when you say a Rani, you're thinking in your mind of something beautiful, and I think this HILSA certainly looks the part.
Absolutely. We were kids and we found it to be too cumbersome, too painstaking to pick bones. So we would always love those kind of fishes which doesn't have many bones. Itki mach, simple sea bass, chital, ar, boal. So those kind of fishes we would love most.
Which were more easier to eat as kids.
Yes, eat as kids. While growing up, you may not like it, but eventually will catch up. The taste will catch up with you.
Correct. And I think that's something that always happens when you travel out far away from your roots.
Correct.
And at times, especially times of trouble, right, you want comfort. And I think nothing comforts like food, and nothing comforts like the flavors that you have grown up with.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it also brings in a lot of nostalgia. Moment you dig into a fish, you remember about your mother, how she used to cook, how she used to serve, when they were functioning in the family. That time we realized that HILSA should be a part of the menu.
And thanks to Chef Subhankar Dhar, here in Nama Bengaluru, we will also get to savor a slice of that delicious nostalgia.
Absolutely, as far as we can. And we have been getting the regular hilsa. It's not frozen. It's all fresh hilsa.
It's all fresh.
Because off monsoon you would get all frozen. Those are blast frozen. Those are equally good. But definitely the fresh hilsa, fresh catch is something which you get, and you eaten
This time.
this time. It's out of the world. আগুনটা আস্তে করে
So that fish will now simmer in that.
simmer in that. You just cover it for some time. There are two formats. This kind of fish that what we are seeing being cooked is generally cooked at home. And we've got another Bengali cuisine which is generally served in wedding and functions. So where the lot of gravies, lot of spiciness will come into it. Kosha mangsho, that what you had tasted last time.
Where the onions are braised for hours.
You have a fish kalia. Kalia means a very rich, spicy, tomato-based gravy with the fish.
So this is a jhol.
Yeah. So this will also be shallow fried. So he's marinating with mustard oil, a little bit of salt and turmeric.
So this is a egg that has come out of one of those.
One of those hilsas. So this will be shallow fried,
Okay.
very slow fried.
Of course, I've come here to savor some of the Hilsa dishes that are part of that promotion. But there's nothing like watching that dish come together. Be it something like the achari, Ilish Jhol, or that Bhaja.
Correct.
What do you call roe in Bengali?
Dim.
Dim. The Ilish Bhaja and also the Ilish Dim Bhaja.
Dim Bhaja. Correct.
Fantastic.
Bengali interpretation of buttermilk.
Bengali interpretation of buttermilk.
Yeah, with gondoraj but little sweet. We call it Jhol.
So it's a mishti gondoraj ghol.
Yes, correct.
This is something that I haven't tasted before. A buttermilk flavored with the gondoraj lebu. I think there's some of the rind on top, right?
Yes.
Gondoraj lebu or the gondoraj lime. That only grows in Bengal.
Yeah, that part. That's eastern part.
And it has a bit of mishti, a bit of sweetness.
Yeah.
Am I saying mishti correct?
Correct.
So we've got a few of the Ilish dishes, and I've requested Chef to also join me on the table to educate me a bit about the dishes as we taste them. But we make a beginning with that Gondoraj
Jhol.
Ghol, the Gondoraj Mishti Ghol. Fantastic. I love Bengali as a language. I think there's a certain sweetness.
Correct.
There's a certain mishtiness in that language.
Yes.
I love that aroma of that Gondoraj lebu. So it's got a bit of kala namak as well, is it?
Yes.
So it's got a bit of the black salt, and then it's got the mishti, the sugar. And then you've got the refreshing citrusy twang of all that Gondoraj in the rind. There is not too much bitterness that you
Yes,
taste.
no. It's not bitter. The rind is not that bitter.
Unlike
the typical, like even if you get in a coffee line, it's slightly on the bitter side, but it's not bitter.
It's not bitter at all.
Yeah.
I think the combination of that kala namak
Yes.
works very well. So it's got the salt, it's got just that touch of sweetness.
Yes.
It's not overtly sweet.
Correct.
And then you got those citrus notes. Well, the plates are here, so the food cannot be too far behind. Time to get rid of the hat and focus on
the food. Take a little bit of salt on the rice.
On the rice?
Yes.
Because that oil only has
The black cumin and the green
chili.
chili.
So there's no salt in
no
that.
salt. And it has all the magical flavor of Hilsa.
So I've got the fish fry here, but then that oil is the oil, the mustard oil, the shorshe, right?
Shorshe tel.
The shorshe that the Ilish has been fried in. So it's got all the flavor of the fish. So you mix it up nicely.
Yes. Break a little bit of fish and mix it with the morsel and eat it.
But can I also taste the rice just by itself?
Yeah.
You know, I can smell the oily flavors of the Ilish in that rice. Of course, there's a bit of the crystalline texture of the salt that you're tasting. Perhaps I need to mix it a little more. But what comes through quite fulsome in the manner that it coats your tongue is the oily flavor of the Ilish.
Yes.
I can smell the fish in the rice. I think now let's go for that Ilish. I love the crispy crackle of the skin. Of course, you got to be careful with the bones. Just holding that fish and I can hear that skin crackle. I want to taste that fish first just by itself. Just make sure there are no bones. The skin of the fish is crisping like a potato wafer. And then the fleshy texture of the fish. Oh, this is delicious. What's interesting here is that the fish is quite crisp on the outside, but on the inside it is soft.
Soft. The way you fry it. You have seen it yourself how it's been fried. We season the wok.
This is only the first of the other 3, 4, 5 dishes that will follow, but I think we've already found our spot of Shantiniketan. Sitting here in Indiranagar, Bengaluru. Oh my goodness, that is bliss. So by itself, of course, the rice with the oil can perhaps be a little punchy in its flavors. But what happens is that the fleshiness of the fish brings it all together. I think it rounds off the edges, it rounds off the saltiness, it rounds off a bit of the green chili spice. I think that fish embraces it all and almost mollycoddles it in its fulsome flavor. Absolutely.
Sublime, divine.
A delicious revelation.
Now you must try it with the roe. Try it a bit just by itself and then you can mix it with the rice and just have it.
Because of its delicate nature, it also tends to harden a bit when it fries.
Yes.
Quite intense in its flavors, and it's got that slightly powdery sort of a texture.
Yes.
And then the flavor of that mustard oil, of the shorshe tel. This is such a revelation. Simple. The rice has the oil which has all of the black cumin and the green chili, and of course a bit of salt that goes here. That's it. And then the fish is seasoned with turmeric, salt
And mustard oil.
and mustard oil.
That's it.
That's it. And it's fried. I think what's important here is the technique.
Technique of the frying. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely divine.
During Hilsa season, this is the most comfort food. I don't even need such a big piece. Even the trimmings of Hilsas would do. Even the tail part of it, a small part of it.
And I'm sure at a restaurant you'll always have that.
Yes, those always go remain unsold. So we serve these kind of pieces to the customer.
I love the flavor and also the texture. You got to be a little careful with the bones. You got to work your way diligently through the bones, pick the flesh from the bones, because you also don't want to waste any of the fish, any of that precious fish on the bone. And of course, holding a camera is not the best way to do it. But I assume when you come here to savor the Hilsa, you will be minus the camera. That crunch of that skin. Because you also marinate it in the mustard oil, and mustard oil also penetrates deep into the fish and seasons it.
Yes. Next will be boneless Ilish Paturi.
That's the fish again that we saw being prepared, and last bit of the Ilish dim.
Ilish deep. So we take out a fillet and we marinate it with simple mustard oil and steam it. And once it's steamed, then we take it out and take out the bones. You have seen it.
Correct.
How the bones were picked. Then we made it into a few slices and again marinate with a bit of coconut paste, very little mustard and a little of green chili and wrap it in a plantain leaf and roast in a griddle. Boneless Ilish Paturi.
What does Paturi mean?
Paturi, anything which is cooked in a pata, that's leaf.
So pata is basically the leaf.
Yes, like patrani in Parsi, pata. So pata is a leaf. Just take out the piece of it and mix it with rice, or you can just have it just by itself.
Is it good? I'm asking the chef about his own food.
It's good. Almost about 15 years because I don't like, because Bengalis who knows how to maneuver bones, they will not go for the boneless stuff.
So what Subhankar is saying is that it's only the newbies like me who perhaps have never stared a Ilish in the eye who will prefer these boneless preparations. The pungent flavor of that mustard, the coconut just adds a bit of graininess, it gives it a little body, helps cut down the pungency of the mustard. The texture of this fish with that mustard and coconut paste is almost that of a slightly firm mousse.
Yes.
And I think the rice also helps temper flavors, right? So if you want a little more of the mustard hit, you go for that fish all by itself.
Yes.
If you want to tone it down in between, you add a bit of rice.
Rice to it.
I want to taste that Paturi fish, Ilish just by itself. Very intense in its flavors when you consume it just by itself.
Yeah.
So the green chili is a part of every staple Bengali meal, is it?
Yes.
Why is
because
that?
it's not for it's only for the flavor. It's not for the spiciness. So you will never see a green chili has been overly cooked. Either it's been tempered very little way, or at the end of the dish, while we are finishing a dish, we just throw that inside, and probably simmer it for about 2-3 minutes or 2 minutes. So the flavor comes in there.
Yeah, so that the flavor infuses to a certain extent, minus the heat.
Minus the heat.
I think the Bengalis are gentle people for the most part. And I think their culinary ethos, the philosophy too, from whatever I've seen, seems to represent that.
Yes.
You know, typically when I'm doing tastings, I reach for a bite or two and then I move on to the next one. But out here, right from that Ilish Bhaja and that Ilish dim Bhaja to that Ilish Paturi, these are the sort of plates that you don't want to let go of. You want to make sure that you finish everything that's in there. I'll perhaps leave the chili aside though. No gravy required. There's enough flavor and masala in that mustard and coconut paste.
And it's basically for the people who have not eaten this fish before. You're encountering HILSA for the first time. This is the fish you start with. You understand the texture, you feel it, and how good are it, then you can move to the next level.
Absolutely. So this is the sort of dish that will help you appreciate the DNA of a Macher Bengali. So good.
English begun kumro jhol.
Kumro, pumpkin.
Yeah, HILSA cooked with your aubergine and pumpkin. This is your Bhapa Ilish, steamed HILSA, and that's your achari Ilish Jhol. We'll start with this.
Okay.
Ilish begun kumro jhol, household thin HILSA curry.
Okay.
With your red pumpkin and aubergine.
So unlike the previous two dishes, which was only the fish, now the fish has some company. Some company in the kumro.
Kumro, red pumpkin and
kumro, that is the red pumpkin, and also the begun.
Just
some of that pumpkin first, because I think once I go to that fish, I may forget the pumpkin. There's a certain sweetness to that pumpkin. Also a bit of starch. So the texture of that pumpkin is almost like a bit of a potato, sweet potato sort of a texture.
Yeah.
Is there some sugar that goes into this dish?
No.
No, the sweetness comes from the
pumpkin. From the pumpkin itself. Just turmeric and your little bit of ginger paste. That's all. Nothing else. And mustard oil.
So I think when it comes to savoring a fish like the hilsa, you don't have to be scared of it with the bones, etc. You just have to be a little diligent. Perhaps you have to pay a little more attention to it.
Yes.
And because as you pay attention to drawing the bones out of the fish and savoring the fish, I think you will also appreciate the flavors of that fish, of that preparation a lot more.
Yep.
Because with a dish like the hilsa, with a fish like the hilsa, you cannot be on your phone and eating that fish.
Correct.
You got to focus on it in its entirety, and then it will also reward you by telling you a little more, by revealing a little more about itself. In this case, this happy companionship with the kumro and also that begun. Brinjal is very soft. So do you fry the brinjal before you put it in the curry?
You put. You stir fry it first, then take it aside, then again put it back when the curry is half cooked.
That's right. So I can also taste a bit of the flavor of the mustard oil.
Oil.
It's almost like a begun that became half a bhaja and then was introduced to the curry in the happy company of the Ilish and the kumro.
The flavor is all about the fish is fried in the same oil.
So that's the other interesting thing. So the fish is always fried before it goes into the curry. The other reason why you fry the fish is also because so that it can hold itself together.
Correct.
Disintegrate
Yes,
into the
yes.
I find amongst all the Ilish preparations that I tasted, I find this one to be the most gentle.
Yeah. This is generally what we eat at home. We want a very thin curry. We don't want any masalas. So we'll make a paste out of turmeric powder and ginger and just pour it in the gravy. And that which will give the body to the whole gravy. And add few aubergines and bhaja kumro and just let it rest and simmer. So that flavor will come from that, get infused from your aubergine and the pumpkin along with your fish.
Pumpkin and the aubergine does is that it also probably helps thicken that gravy a bit.
Yes.
Otherwise it may be very watery.
It's supposed to be watery. If you're eating at home, it's supposed to be on the runny side.
On the runny side.
But what happens is just because kumro has got the starchy character, so you can just mash the kumro and thicken the gravy along with the rice and savor it.
That's right.
Yeah.
So although it's a watery jhol, as a jhol has to be, if you like a little more body, if you like a little more weight, I think take some of the kumro or perhaps the begun, which I think is now slowly beginning to work its way up my list of favorite vegetables, and combine that with the fish, carefully picking at the bones. So I've got some of the rice, some of the bhat, the jhol, a little bit of the ilish and also the begun. I love mustard, especially when it's deployed in preparations like these. The flavor that you get just tasting that begun by itself, a simple fish curry, there's enough in it to keep you occupied.
Yes.
In a home, you want to eat something light, but yet you want to eat something which is interesting at the same time,
Yes.
right? Every morsel of that bhat and macher jhol can be different depending on what you have in that scoop.
Correct.
Whether you have that ilish, whether you have some of the kumro or that begun. Well, we've been enjoying our meal here so much that the light has changed around us, and so we have the lights on now. So maybe the lighting would have changed a bit, but our focus, our attention is the food.
This is the Bhapa Ilish, steamed HILSA with mustard paste. This is your quintessential Bengali, most staple Ilish preparation. Minimal usage of ingredients and maximum amount of flavor that I can extract out of HILSA. Marinated with simple mustard oil, mustard paste, little bit of green chili paste, little bit of yogurt to cut down on the pungency, and you steam it for about 10 minutes. Your Bhapa Ilish is ready.
I also have the deem, the Ilish deem that chef has gladly allowed me to have. Here the texture is a little softer as opposed to the bhaja.
Yes. Because it's steamed.
I love that powdery texture of that deem. Of course, here is the mustard that is the hero. Oh, this is a full-on
Absolutely.
mustard hit entirely. So you got the pungency and also a bit of the bitterness as well that comes from the mustard. So this is a homemade mustard.
Homemade mustard. We make our own mustard paste.
So the mustard paste is what? Just the mustard seeds?
Mustard seeds along with some green chili and turmeric.
Okay.
And you need to be very careful while making a paste out of it. Add a lot of ice cubes so that it doesn't turn bitter. Mustard is as good as handling a HILSA fish. It's also as delicate as it. A lot of places you will find the mustard is turned bitter.
That's because they have not cooled it down.
Yeah, not cooled it down. And probably the grinder has been doing the grinding for about say half an hour.
So it heats up.
It heats up.
So basically mustard paste is just the mustard. You have some
Green chili.
Green chili.
Yeah, a little bit of turmeric.
Little bit of turmeric.
And a lot of water and ice.
You know, every dish that we've tasted here thus far, you've tasted a different dimension of the HILSA.
Yes.
In the first one, it was the oils, the fat of the HILSA, that crunchy texture, that wafer-like texture of the skin. As we tasted the Paturi, it was a little more gentler, thanks to the mustard and the coconut.
Yes.
And then, of course, we tasted the
curry.
The curry. In the curry, I think that HILSA was also fortified with some of the other things that were happening. I would taste a lot of the turmeric. But out here, I think it's more of the soft fleshiness of the fish that you're tasting. Of course, along with the mustard. The mustard is whether you call it a hero or a supporting hero, it has a strong role to play in this preparation. Even as we move towards this achari,
Ilish Jhol.
achari, Ilish Jhol, the pungency of the mustard
It's still there.
still remains, no?
Yeah.
On the palate. I think maybe I should just have some of the plain rice first, just to wipe some of the flavors. Before I go for that, what looks like a robustly flavored jhol. Oh. This is spicy. I can definitely taste the heat of the chili the moment you place that in your mouth. So does that come from the red chili that you put into the curry, or is it there in that pickle paste? So I think this is the spiciest dish that you will taste. So if you like spice, this is probably something that you should look out for. So go some of that fish now. That fish that has been fried first and then introduced to that jhol. I think the Ilish also makes for a very versatile fish.
It doesn't require much of a treatment, doesn't require a lot of ingredients to take the flavor out.
So the Ilish by itself has very strong flavors.
Yes.
But it is a sort of fish that is also quite happy to absorb other flavors.
Yes.
Right? So
Yes.
here in this particular dish, I'm tasting more of the achari spices.
Achari spices.
And very less of the fattiness of the Ilish. I think the achari spices, the heat in that also cuts down, I think, some of that fattiness of the fish.
Yes.
I think when somebody comes here and if they really want to appreciate the Ilish, they should try at least 3-4 different preparation styles.
Yes. The Bhaja is the must to start with.
And what I like here is that the skin had crispened when it was fried, but now it has softened. But it still packs a lot of the flavor. So if you want to taste more of the Ilish flavor in this particular preparation, I think you should definitely not waste any of that skin. And also the flavoring of the seasoning in this.
Yeah. Fenugreek, mustard seeds.
Fenugreek, mustard seeds.
The mango pickle, a little bit of ginger.
So there isn't a lot of garlic that's used.
No, garlic we don't put in fish at all. The kalia, again, that's the wedding quick kind of style of food. So they will add a lot of garlic while cooking fish. Okay. Otherwise, Bengalis, we generally avoid adding garlic to the fish.
Why is that?
Bengali's got a very potent flavor. It takes away suppose in any curries, any very thin curries, we would prefer a ginger, or rather we just prefer a simple, we call it cumin paste.
Cumin paste.
Yeah, what we call in Bengali, Ada Jire Bata.
Ada Jire Bata.
Ada means ginger paste and cumin paste. That's the basic staple for any jhol.
Also, I think the flavor of this curry is a lot more complex.
Yes.
So when I began this, it was definitely the chili that got me on the first bite. But right now, after I've spent a few minutes savoring this preparation, I'm now tasting the finer nuances, whether it's of that mustard seed, whether it's of that
pickle,
the achari spices, some of that fenugreek.
Yes.
This has been wonderful, tasting this smorgasbord of the Ilish, and that too with Chef Subhankar Dhar for company. Thank you very much for your time.
A pleasure is mine, Kripal.
So if you haven't caught the earlier Esplanade episode, I'm going to place a link in the description below. Do take a look at the episode to see some more of the repertoire of this wonderful Bengali restaurant. I hope you've enjoyed this episode starring the Macher Rani, the Ilish.
The queen of fish.
The queen of fish. I certainly feel like a Macher Bhate Bengali at the end of it. I hope you've enjoyed this episode too. Until the next time, take care, stay safe, stay strong, and happy eating. If you'd like to support the work that we do at Food Lovers TV, do consider joining our membership community on YouTube by hitting the join button below or on the home page. You could pledge a nominal sum and receive special privileges like behind the scenes footage, shoot updates, access to live Q&As, and a lot more. You could support us on our Patreon page as well. For more info, check out the links in the description below. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and leave a comment below. Happy eating!